Today is July 20th, 2015. My name is Norm Tensing and I'm representing the St. Croix Falls Historical Society. I am accompanied today by Duran Blanding, who is the immediate past president of our Historical Society, and his daughter Mary Beth, who is doing the camera work today. And we are going to be interviewing Dorothy Edgell, who's a resident of the comforts of home here in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. So Dorothy, you're up. We're going to talk to you about your life. You're 101 years old.
Yes.
Incredible. I'm going to sit over here, and I think that'll work out.
Yep.
And now you and I visited yesterday, pretty much told you what we're going to ask you.
Yes.
And so what I would like to have you do is give the date of your birth and the year and your full maiden name. I know your maiden name was Hanson, but can you do that for us?
I was born in St. Paul on March 7th, 1914, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot what else you wanted to know.
Well, you lived in Cushing in your young life.
Yeah.
When did you move up there from St. Paul?
My parents moved when I was a baby.
Oh, okay.
So I think I was 2 years old when we moved. And we had a farm outside of Cushing.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell about your early life? Did you have to do the chores and work on the farm with the family?
No, my parents didn't make us girls do very much.
Oh, okay.
But, and we never, it was always girls' things we did. We were off by ourselves, just the two, no other young people around. And so we played dolls and things like that. We never had a bicycle, or you have to remember that those things cost money, and it was depression. So we didn't have a lot of active outdoor things.
Did you go to country school out near your home?
Mm-hmm. Went to Bass Lake School, which is west of Cushing, a little west and north.
Was it a 1 through 8 grade school? 8 grades?
Yes, the Bass Lake School was.
Okay. And what was that like to go to country school?
Well, it was, I don't know how to describe it. Classes were divided, so you had maybe 10 minutes for one class and maybe 10 minutes for the next one, and then maybe 1:15. The days were chopped up, and you had, we started in the morning with first grade reading. And then the next class was 8th grade arithmetic. And then from there it went on. We had 3rd and 4th grades together, 5th and 6th together, and 7th and 8th.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy your grade school experience? Was it a good time for you, a good time of your life?
Yes.
And was it a social center as well that the school was?
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm. Like plays?
We always had get-togethers, programs we had for Halloween and Christmas. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the year we had picnics, and parents all came and brought food, and they played ball and made a day of it, the last day of school.
And then you came to St. Croix to go to high school.
Yes.
And you told me you lived with your aunt. Can you tell us about what that was like to come to St. Croix to high school?
Oh, it was kind of scary. I was used to country school and all those grades, and I remember the first, going backward, Jean was my friend from the time I was maybe 10. Because I used to go and stay with my aunt in the summer, and so we got acquainted. So there was a girl, we were like in a semicircle on that block. There was Jean and a girl named Laura Dean and me at my aunt's house. So we were friends, so I wasn't totally strange when I got to St. Croix. But the first day, I walked up those steps, and then I didn't know quite what to do with myself, so I sat down there. And Genevieve Mack a neighbor girl came along. You remember her, Durand?
I sure
The
do.
Max?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Genevieve came along. She was a senior, and she took me and showed me where to go. And from then on, it was fine.
Now, the school was relatively new when you were there. The school was built in 1909, or completed in 1909. It's a beautiful school. It was a beautiful school.
Yeah.
You remember those winding steps that took you up there. Next to the Presbyterian Church, was the church there then
Yes.
too?
We walked up the steps by the
Yeah,
church.
yeah, okay. And what about some of the faculty now? Everyone seems to remember Nels Sorensen.
Oh, yes, because he was there a long time.
What can you tell us about him?
He was very strict, very strict. But I think everybody liked him. We were all scared of him.
Okay.
But he was good.
Now, I have your 1931 yearbook, and I've turned to the page where the faculty is listed. Among them are Helen Huber. Can you tell us about Helen Huber?
Oh, she was wonderful.
Yeah.
She was, it was a little hard for her to get around. She had kind of a disability. One leg was shorter than the other, and it was hard for her walking up those steps and that. But she was a wonderful teacher.
Okay.
The first 2 weeks, I think, that I took shorthand, I was just in a fog. I had no idea what it was, and then all of a sudden it hit.
So you were pretty good at shorthand?
Yeah, well, yeah, she was such a good teacher.
And typing? Did you take typing from her too?
Oh, yes,
And now it says here that she taught commercial work.
yeah.
So a lot
I
of people.
took typing and shorthand. I didn't take any bookkeeping.
A lot of people went to local jobs because they had been taught by
Yes.
Helen Huber.
I remember one day after I'd gone to normal school, it was in the summer after I'd been teaching, I met her on the hill outside the old school down on the street. And she scolded me for not going into office work. She said, "I don't know what you're doing in the schoolroom." But that was what I'd always wanted to do. I always wanted to teach.
Yeah. Here's another name that I have never ever forgotten, but George Schlagenhoff. Do you remember him?
Oh, sure.
He was the coach, but he also taught mathematics and economics. Did you have him for a teacher too?
No, no.
You shied away from mathematics?
Yeah. I didn't have anything to do with him except long after, just not too long before I came here. I was in luck, and he lived up there at West Denmark.
Yeah.
And I ran into him, and so we had a good visit. We had coffee at the senior place, and it was nice to see George. He was a very nice man,
Yeah.
but I never had to work with him.
He lived to be past 100 years old too.
Yes.
He got
Yeah.
to be an old guy. Do you remember George Schlagenhoff?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, in looking at your 1931, the year of your graduation with Jean, here's what they said. Here's what you said. If I worried every time I went to class without my lesson, I'd be a nervous wreck.
Wouldn't I?
And here
What
you
does
are.
it say about Jean?
Well, here's what they said with Jean. Music hath its charms, but so have Jean's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, their picture of you and Jean are on the same page here, and both of you were very, very active in a lot of things listed here. Here's what it says under Dorothy Hanson. You were in the Glee Club, Girls Reserves, you were Girl Reserve Secretary, you were the class secretary and treasurer, you were in the operetta, you were in the Latin Club. Were you pretty good in Latin? Did you like taking Latin? You like languages, you said.
I liked, yes.
Yeah, okay. And you were in the Home Ec Club. You were declamatory, and you received the France Wilkie Award, as well as you were on the Sentinel staff that made this yearbook.
Yeah.
So you were a very active lady. Incredible.
I've forgotten quite a bit of that.
Well then, when you were involved in all that stuff, that took a lot of your time during the school week. You were living with Emma Fisk at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And you must have been busy after school too.
Oh, yeah.
With a lot of that activity. Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you enjoy most about all of that? Just being an active person and being in the play and all that?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I liked everything about it.
Okay, then after the school experience, you went to the cities, to St. Paul?
After high school.
Yeah. Now, Duran thought you went to the university with his sister Jean, but can you tell us about, Dorothy, when you moved? Was it in St. Paul that you lived?
Jean was in school, and I helped her. We lived together at their aunt and uncle, and I helped her while she had a baby. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I went and I got a job at Montgomery Wards.
And they called it Monkey Wards in those days.
Monkey Wards. It was on University
yeah.
in Snelling.
Yeah. What did you do there?
I picked the packages off a removing belt and stuffed the papers in them, threw them back on the belt. They were carried away.
Okay.
So that was my job.
And how far?
They call that billing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How far from Monkey Wards did you live? Did you
Oh,
have to take
I
a straight
stayed with my dad's cousin. I suppose it was a couple of miles. I had to take the streetcar to work.
Well, did you take the University Line streetcar? Okay.
Yeah, 7 cents a token.
A token. Wow.
And you could
Incredible.
go all over the city. You could transfer from one to another for 7 cents.
Did you ever take the Selby Lake streetcar?
Sometimes.
You would go take through that tunnel. Remember the Selby Lake tunnel, right by the cathedral?
I don't know.
Well, if you took the Selby Lake,
I must have.
you would have gone through that tunnel.
Yeah.
So
I remember going to the theater on Selby Lake. We went there quite often.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever get back to that neighborhood? Not now, but in your later
No,
life?
our relatives moved away, and
Okay.
no.
I was going to ask you, you worked at Monkey Wards or Montgomery Wards. It was a huge, big new building. I think it was built in the 20s, pretty new when you worked there. It was pretty new. The building was new. You got married while you were working there?
No.
How did that work?
I came back, and went to normal school then.
Okay.
And I taught a year, and then I was married.
Okay, so can you tell us about your beginning teaching job?
Oh, the first job I had was at Goose Lake, out of Balsam Lake.
Okay.
I don't think the school's there anymore, but that was a one-room school.
You taught all 8 grades? Was that a challenge? Pretty tough stuff?
Yeah. I liked the little ones better at that time. Yeah. I had, at that Goose Lake school, no, I'm mistaken, that was a different school. I was going to say I had 11 first graders, but it wasn't there.
Okay. Wow. You earned your what little money they paid you, you earned it, right?
$75 a month.
Wow. And did you live with some other people at that time, with a family?
Yeah, I lived with the family, Walter Ogilvy and his wife. They were farmers. And I boarded with them. I paid $20 a month.
Was that a good experience, living with them?
It was nice, yeah.
Good people?
I had had a long walk to school. It was quite a ways from their house to the school. And I used to carry my portable typewriter. I don't know how I did that, but I was young.
Not summer, but winter and fall, did it get pretty tough in the winter to make that walk?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was
Did you
cold.
ever get a ride in a sleigh to school?
There were kids from Balsam Lake went by my school to go to
Okay.
To school, and they would pick me up and give me a ride.
Okay.
Sometimes
It was
high
after-
school kids,
Okay. It was
they'd come.
after you had taught there. Is that when you got married? After you taught that?
After Goose Lake.
How did you meet your husband?
Went to high school with him.
Oh,
Thought he was the worst brat in school
okay.
at that time.
Is he in this yearbook too? 1931? Did he graduate
No,
with you?
no, he was in the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
1932.
Yeah,
Or was he the year ahead of you or behind you?
behind.
Behind, I see. Okay.
Yeah, he was a year younger than I.
Okay. When you're 101 and somebody's 100, it really doesn't make any difference.
No, not really.
Can you tell us about your children? You have 5 children, 4 sons and a daughter. Can you tell us about them?
Well, Jim is my oldest. He lives at Centuria, and he's a retired. Lots of things. His final job, he had a trucking business, but early on he went to Brown Institute and radio school.
Yes. In Minneapolis? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was a radio announcer for a while, and he didn't like the hours. So then he went and while he was there, he had a drive-in built right on 35 back of my house. He had just a soft ice cream and things like that. And he ran that until he bought the trucking business. But he's kept busy all the time with, he always announces for the parades and for programs and everything like that. So he keeps, and he's on the county board. He's been village president and just done lots of things.
Yeah.
He's very busy.
I think I've seen him in here. I have
You
never-
probably have.
I never met him, but I would see him and talk with him because my wife was here
Yeah.
as well. And so I got to see him a little bit there. Okay, so that's one of your sons. You have 3 other sons.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about them?
Douglas is next. He lives in Powell, Wyoming. He's a barber. And that's about it. He has one son, who is a barber. So Doug is kind of semi-retired now.
He's the one that had some health issues. You told me he had some health issues.
No, it's my next son, Tom, who has the health issues.
Okay.
He is also a
I
barber.
guess that's where I got that from, the barber.
Yeah. But,
But he's okay now.
well, not okay. He's on dialysis.
Yeah.
And he's made up his mind he can work a little bit, so he cuts maybe 2 people's hair a day or something to keep,
Keep his hand in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the one of my children that has poor health.
Yeah.
And then Andrew is a retired teacher and what do you call it? Advises kids. What do you call that?
Oh, a guidance counselor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. He taught in Cadott for 26 years. Oh, I'm getting too close.
No, that's fine.
And then he went into counseling, and he worked at North Branch until he retired.
I see.
So that's all of them. My daughter is in Texas. She married a boy from Milltown, Gary Clausen.
Okay.
And she has 3 children, and she has 11 grandchildren.
Wow.
Her first granddaughter was married last Saturday,
Wow.
so that's been her
So
excitement.
you have how many grandchildren, do you know?
I think I have 9 grandchildren.
And how many great-grandchildren?
6, if I can keep track. It's hard to keep track
Yeah.
because, well, we've had marriages and divorces, and we had a terrible thing. Andy's son was in school at Cadott, and not at Cadott, at Menominee. He was in college. And he and 3 of his friends came home to Andy's house for Thanksgiving. And the weather got bad, and Sunday night they had a small car. They were driving back to school. They were struck by a semi, and all 4 boys were killed.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
So that was terrible.
I remember when that happened. I remember that they were students at Stout State University. Yes, you probably remember that too. But
And then we had other tragedies too. 3 of my boys lost 3 sons. Each lost a son.
no,
Tom's boy died of cancer about 3 years ago. He was 35. And Doug's boy, I had my ticket to go out there to his wedding, and he was killed before the wedding on some kind of an ATV. He and a friend were in the mountains and shouldn't have been monkeying with it, but they were.
yeah. what
And
about
he was killed.
and there was a third one that was killed too? A third one that was killed, one of your grandsons?
Yeah, they were all my grandsons.
Yeah, well, that's a tragedy. Tragedy in your life.
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
I can remember when I was a little kid, your folks had invited our family out for dinner.
Yeah,
And you, as I recall, your farmhouse, you went west of Cushing and then you went north
yeah,
for a little ways up towards Bass Lake.
yep,
And you were on the right-hand side over
yep,
there. Yeah.
yeah,
So
You were
I
pretty-
remember about it, that,
yeah.
but your mother was Clara.
That's right.
And then she moved into St. Croix.
Yes,
And I got to know her pretty well. She was an awfully nice lady. I always liked Clara.
good.
And
I know she got to know you.
And she lived in an apartment that was owned by Stanley Peterson.
Oh,
You remember Stanley Peterson? He was a son of what was his father's name? His father owned the farm near you. It was closer to Cushing.
oh, sure. I know who you mean now.
Yeah, and I just can't think of, it was H something Peterson or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Real nice man, and I remember he used to knit mittens.
Oh, really?
He'd bring some mittens into the office. And he was, then he was the one that sold the land, I think, where they built the Cushing School, that second Cushing School.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
How many years did you teach?
Hmm?
How many years did you teach in that school?
Just about 30.
3 years?
Not exactly, because I had a half school a couple of times, a half a year,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
filled out for somebody.
Yeah.
But you,
I would say 28 maybe.
Yeah.
where else did you teach beside that Goose Lake?
Well, Goose Lake, and then where did I go? I went to Alabama, and I don't know if you have any idea about that. That
My
is
father taught in Alabama
your father?
many years ago while he was trying to make enough money to complete law school.
You mean Alabama and Wisconsin?
He's gonna go to a different area.
Oh, thanks. Alabama, Wisconsin, or Alabama up by Cushing?
There's no
There's
town
a-
there,
and
just
there's a little
township.
story about that those people who settled in Alabama were from Alabama, and they were Northern sympathizers when the Civil War started. They had to get out of the South, and so they migrated from Alabama up to this area there, north and east of Cushing. And the Addington family and some of the others were in that group. But anyway, that's where Alabama got its name.
they actually had a store there for a while, and they had a church. And I don't know if the school, I suppose they had school then too.
What I wanted to talk to you about is your experience at River Falls. You finished, did you get a bachelor's degree?
Yes, I did.
At River Falls?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you went back into teaching after you had that? And tell us about your experience in the college, and then tell us about your teaching following that, if you will.
Well, when I started, like most of the teachers out here, we went back to school. We had to make up credits, you know. We, when we started, most of us just worked to get enough credits so we could get a permit to teach another year. And that went on for a long time. We got together carpooling and drove to River Falls 5 o'clock in the morning, get there for class at 7:30. And I don't remember too much of anything special interest. Our classes,
You did what you had to do.
we did what we had to do, and the funny part of it was, for me, I didn't bother. I had my credits sent to my boss, and I didn't even get the copy myself. And one day my boss came in. It was Neil Binkley, if you know who he was. And he said, "You know that you're almost ready to graduate?" He said, "You need 2 credits." And that was really a thrill to me. So then I went back and got 2 credits practicing first grade.
I mean, you'd already been doing that.
I was so far past first grade, and I argued with them about it. I wanted something different, but that's what I got.
Okay.
So that's how I got my degree. But going nights and Saturdays and summers, there were several of us that got together and drove.
You taught in Unity for a while, in the Unity School District?
Unity, yeah.
Yeah.
20-some years in Unity.
And who, was it Binkley, or what was the principal or the superintendent over there?
Neil Binkley was our
Binkley,
superintendent.
Yeah.
First year I was there, it was Roy Durst.
What years were you there?
Well, I retired in 75, and I was there, must have been 50,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember some of the people you worked with there?
Oh, yes.
Don Leash, remember Don Leash? He was in the high school, I think.
Oh, yeah, he stops to see me when he comes. His wife has a memorial he had put up out there
Yeah.
for her.
His wife Joyce.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
yeah. And she passed away here.
Yes, I know.
So he always used to stop in when he came. Yeah, I'm trying to think who was there. Elliot Paulson
Oh, yes, yeah.
and Chuck Hollicky and Fred Ubalodi.
That's a good memory.
Yeah,
Do you remember the early days of the union activity over there?
not too much.
Not too much.
I
You
wasn't.
you were at the tail end of your career about that time,
Yeah,
early 70s.
yes. I didn't. I guess I didn't show much interest in
Yeah.
Unity,
Okay.
or in Unions.
Yeah, I understand. Is there anything you would like to record for posterity that you'd like to have people look at you years to come and say, oh, I remember that Dorothy Edgell? Can you tell us anything you'd like to be remembered for besides being a great teacher?
Oh, well, one thing I do appreciate is since I've had this big birthday and it's been in the paper, I've had quite a few visits from former students.
Wow,
And it's really fun to see them.
that's a credit to you. That's a great credit to you.
It is. I had one boy I had early on, and he had an unhappy home life. He was in 7th grade, and he had come to my house in the summertime, this after he's grown up. And he said, I bet you don't know me. And I said, I do too. He had one blue eye and one brown eye. And I felt really good about that because he told me that at that time I was the only person who had been kind to him.
That's nice.
So that was a good thing.
A nice tribute to you. A nice tribute to you.
Yes,
as
it
well.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you appreciate things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dorothy. I think you've done a great job in this recording, and I hope that you get to see a copy of this.
I hope I can. Maybe I'll be scared to death.
Can I ask you another question though? I mean, I have my about Aunt Jean really, because Dad had this older sister, my Aunt Jean, and she died when I was in high school. She had cancer and she died, and it was too bad for me because I never got to know her. Can you tell me a story that would like characterize maybe Aunt Jean and your friendship? Maybe something fun that you guys did together?
Well, when we were friends from the time we were kids, and it was a long ways from Cushing to St. Croix at that time. I lived at Cushing. She was in St. Croix. So we wrote letters back and forth and back and forth. And I was telling him last summer when my daughter was here, we found a box of letters that Jean had written to me. They were in the attic, and my daughter brought them down. And we spent an afternoon just laughing at the crazy things she was so clever and said such funny things.
Yeah.
So, but the last time I saw Jean, a whole group of us that had been in high school were together at Lyman Thomas's house in St. Croix. And Jean was coughing, and she was awful cough. And I was worried about her then, and I asked her what she was doing about it. And she said, oh, it's nothing. I don't think she knew at that time what was wrong. And that's the last time I ever saw her.
How about a positive? How about a funny story when you were in high school, maybe?
I can't think of anything in particular right now. She was fun.
Yeah.
Was she in the play with you? Yeah.
We did most everything together.
When you were in high school, the new edition was going on. Was
No.
It wasn't there when you were there?
No.
Okay.
No.
Was that in the mid-30s when that was built? The edition? The first edition? Which
The
had
first edition,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
But
But I
school
was.
ended up having all kinds of editions, and they kind of destroyed
Yeah.
the architectural
Yeah.
features of the original school, I think. little editorial thing.
I agree.
Cut that out.
This is not for publication, but you talk about the old school. Nels Sorensen's office was up, maybe
know,
3 or
I know.
4 steps.
I know where it
Just
was.
a little office up. You didn't see that, I suppose. You didn't know that. Anyway,
I even knew that. I was a teacher too.
yeah. Do you remember?
Oh, I do indeed. In fact, I was there the day a kid threw a football in that area, and it went through one of those windows up there, and broke. And that was from 1909, that building, and I caught him, of course, and he had to serve some time for doing that. But you can't replace a 1909 window.
Well, what did he do? I didn't.
Oh, he was carelessly throwing a football in that area,
Oh,
and he went through.
that's mild.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him grab a boy by the back of the neck and shove him down those steps.
Yeah, that was Nels. But this is a boy that threw a football through the window accidentally. But and I used one of the shards,
Yeah.
a piece of it, for a
Yeah.
manger scene that I built. So it lives, but kind of in that you can edit.
I remember an embarrassing thing that happened to me. I had ridden some way. I'd come from home on Monday morning. I don't remember how I got there. Rode with somebody and had my suitcase, and I put it in the locker room. And I don't know if it must not have been locked or what, but anyway, Nels came up to me where I was in my class and wanted me to go down the locker room with him. And here was my suitcase with all my clothes spread out on the table. And Nels turned his back to me and he said, "That's your stuff?" And he had caught a girl stealing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That stuff has never stopped, by the way. They're still doing that today.
Yes, I'm sure they are. But that was my experience
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
Yeah, that's great.
I used to work in the office for him. We all did. That everybody that took typing and shorthand or bookkeeping had a time working in the office.
I just have such a hard time believing that you are 101 years old, because you look so good today, and you don't look that old. You look much
Thank you.
younger, and you're dressed so appropriately today. And I'm glad you thought about it and remembered that we were going to do this. And I hope it didn't scare you too much.
Well, I hope I didn't do too badly,
You
make
did
a
fine.
fool of myself.
You did just great. Thank you so much.
Dorothy, you realize that this interview is being done on behalf of the St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin Historical Society.
That's
And we intend to use this video for the purposes of retaining and maintaining the history of the St. Croix region. And we possibly will show this to the public and so on. And I hope, and we're asking you that will our use of this video in this manner, is that with your approval? And
well, it's okay if I didn't do too badly. If
You're
I
gonna
didn't
you're
say
gonna be
anything,
famous. You're going to be famous, Dorothy. You're going to be famous.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think it's nice to keep track of all those things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's about all I have.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Dad?
I don't think of them afterwards, but
Yeah.
I should have had a notepad because a lot of these things when they came up, I wanted to ask her about one of the Reynolds boys taught at the Unity School. Was it Frank Reynolds or?
Reynolds, yeah, Frank, well, he taught in Milltown.
Oh, he taught in Milltown.
Yeah, he was an ag teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But Milltown became part of the Unity District, didn't
Yeah.
it? Wasn't it part of the Unity?
Yeah, the first year that Binkley hired me, I was put in a little two-room school at Likens, if you know where that is, Maple Grove School. And it was a nice, real nice building, but they were transferring kids to Unity. And so they had taken the 7th and 8th grade from this little school, so I had the first 6 grades. That was the first year I was in Unity, the first year it became Unity. But I never went to the new school. I retired before they all moved out there.
Yeah. And now, don't they have K through 12 all in that same building?
The last years when I was there, we had the all of the 4th grade from Balsam Lake and Milltown and Century together. And they brought them to Centuria.
Wow.
So that's where I was for most of the time.
Anything else that you want to ask? That triggered before the lawnmower could...
Well, I know, I had to shut it. It was, I think it was a weed whip or something, sounded like a chainsaw.
Right now, I can't think of anything more. But I know that the name of Dorothy Edgell has been in kind of a part of the topic of conversation around in the Blending family for many years, and always in a favorable light. And
Duran, did Beth have any children?
neither she adopted 3 children,
Oh,
but so she neither one of my sisters had a child of their own.
Oh.
Jean adopted a child by the name of Tim. Tim lives in Stoughton, Wisconsin, and works works for the state in Madison, and he's just retiring this year.
oh,
Just got a note from him, and he's talking about coming up, and he wants to come up and visit us this fall.
what is that playing around?
That hornet has been flying around this room ever since we started.
I don't need that thing.
We'll get him before we leave. I'll try to swat him.
I remember Jean writing to me about, was it Kim you said his name? Or Tim? Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must have been when, shortly after they had adopted him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know Lois Breslauer?
Hmm?
Well, did you know Lois Breslauer? Were you all friends together?
Lois?
Lois Breslauer. What was her name before?
Her name was Lois Garsland. She
Yeah.
lived up in Duluth.
I never met Lois. I heard all about her all the time, but I never met her.
Uh-huh.
I remember one time Jean and Lois had planned to come up to the farm, and then something came up, so they didn't come, so I never did meet her.
Mm-hmm.
You felt like you knew her, though.
Yeah, I felt like it because I heard about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we had a lot of good times.
So you had a mostly good life. With
Yeah.
You told me yesterday, with
Well,
some bumps. We don't
yeah,
have to talk
well, I
about
told you about.
We're not going to talk about the bumps, but you had a lot of good times too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Well, you sure look good.
That's the way it is for most people, I think. We all have hard times,
We all have bumps.
good times.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And Duran's folks were very, very good to me. Her dad used to take me along. When Jean was going any place, I was along too. I remember one time we got caught in a blizzard. We went up to remember one time we got caught in a blizzard. We went up to Eureka in a snowstorm. And on the way back, it was so thick that you could hardly see the road. We got back okay, but it was
Wow.
really, it sticks in my mind because it was so bad.
Now,
Scared.
was the Blanding house the one that you grew up in off of Roosevelt Street? Is that where you remember Jean
Yeah, but
living
that
in
house
that house?
is gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it burned down. Yeah, that was sad.
I
It was
had
such a pretty
lots of
house.
good times there.
Yeah, beautiful house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Duran's dad was a good guy too.
yeah.
Do you remember any stories about him? You know, he died before I was born. I haven't
Yeah,
heard
I
much.
suppose. Yeah.
So,
Jean and I, after school, used to go up and visit with him in his office when he had the upstairs office where you were.
Oh, he started upstairs in that building.
We used to go up there, and Jean would bum him for some money so we could do something.
I used to go up there too when I was in grade school. Jack Vizina and I would take turns. First of all, we'd go over to his dad's place. He ran the Standard Press.
Yeah.
Try to get a nickel from him or for each of us so we could go over and get an ice cream cone. And the
Then
next
get one
night,
from your dad,
after
huh?
school, I would go over to my dad's and try to get a nickel apiece.
I remember when I first got to know your dad when I was a little kid, I was kind of scared of him. He had those snapping black, dark eyes. He could sound real stern. Ooh, I hate that thing flying
I
around.
know.
Yeah,
But it's been doing this though.
it's enjoying the interview.
Yeah.
He's on
We've-
film too,
We've
right?
had a lot of challenges with all those sounds.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a chainsaw out there now.
There's a man out here that has a fly swatter. I think the only one that plays.
There's our 20 minutes.
It sounds like a plane has just landed outside that lawnmower.
Well, the guy, apparently it's a contracted firm, and so they have to come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I asked him for 20 minutes at least, or
Yeah.
half an hour.
Yeah.
That's
He
what we
just
got.
started that last week. They've
Oh.
been having it hand mowed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the minister has done that in the past, but apparently they're contracting it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
they just hired
Yeah,
him.
okay.
It's too much to do by hand. And
Oh, yeah.
the minister takes care of all those flowers.
Yeah, yeah, nice guy.
Beautiful plants and
Yeah.
flowers he has.
Yeah.
Who's the minister?
He's a, what's his name? Do you remember, Dorothy?
No, I don't.
I did.
They
but
call
I-
him Pastor Kevin, that's all I
Kevin,
know.
Kevin, that's his name, but I don't know his last name.
No.
Yeah.
You
Nice
know,
guy.
I don't know the last name of hardly anybody here
Yeah, well,
because of too many, I guess, to
Yeah.
remember.
They used to kid about, they had, in the past, they had a couple of Baptist ministers in there. The first one was Pastor Nee, and he was followed up by Pastor Asp.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding, that's a true story. I wouldn't lie to you.
wow.
Do you have
Remember, Dorothy, that there was a time when my sister Jean had to quit school. It was during the Depression, and I think my dad just completely ran out of money. And he had to let his secretary go, and then Jean worked in his office as his secretary
Uh-huh.
to kind of keep going for a while during the Depression.
Yeah.
And then she went back to school after that.
Yeah. That's right. Well, that was hard times for almost everyone.
Now, you lived on a farm up in Cushing,
Yeah, I
did
grew
you?
up on a farm.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
Just one sister.
Okay. Did she
Seems-
come into town too when she went to school?
Well, by the time she got going, they had buses,
Oh, sure.
you know.
Because she
At
was
first-
younger than you.
Hmm?
Younger than you?
Yeah, she was 5 years younger.
Okay.
She was
Can
the
I, do you
same
mind
age
if I
as
just
my
put this in
sister
here?
Beth.
Is that okay? Can I just put this? This is the mic, and I just. Is that
That's-
okay? Is that good? Oh, that's perfect.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Will
Well,
that pick up when
you
I
know,
talk to you?
Mhm.
If I,
So what I'm gonna, it's already in there. This is enough. This is
Okay.
like a music
well,
quality.
I'll speak up a little too.
Yeah. So yeah, we're ready to start. We're actually rolling. I'll just cut the other stuff from the beginning.
We're rolling.
We are rolling.